The recording app finished installing on Kara's phone while she showered upstairs. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That was the scary part. 3 days ago, when I'd called her boss about flowers for her business trip, his confused voice still echoed in my head. Business trip? Kara quit 3 months ago, Brent. I thought you knew. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Brent Alden, 41 years old, warehouse supervisor at Millbrook Distribution. I fix problems for a living, inventory shortages, scheduling conflicts, broken equipment. But I'd never had to fix a broken marriage before, especially one that had apparently been broken for months without me knowing it. The shower water stopped running. I slipped her phone back onto the nightstand and walked downstairs to the kitchen, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floors. Our house wasn't much, a modest 2-bedroom in Millbrook, Maine, population 8,400, but it was ours. Or so I'd thought. Kara appeared 20 minutes later, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless even at 7 in the morning. She wore her black business suit, the one that cost more than I made in a week. For someone who'd been unemployed for 3 months, she sure dressed the part. Coffee smells good, she said, not meeting my eyes. She never met my eyes anymore. Made a full pot. Figured you'd want some before your big trip to Portland. I kept my voice neutral, conversational. How long did you say you'd be gone? Just 2 days, maybe 3. She poured coffee into her travel mug, the expensive one with her initials. You know how these corporate retreats drag on. Corporate retreats. Right. I nodded and sipped my coffee, watching her over the rim. Which hotel are you staying at again? For just a second, her hand paused. The Eastland Park. Why? No reason, just in case I need to reach you. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I'll call you tonight. Love you. The words sounded hollow, practiced, like she'd been rehearsing them. Love you too, I lied. After her car disappeared down Maple Street, I opened the recording app on my phone. The software was already syncing with hers, downloading text messages, call logs, everything. I'd bought it online for $49. Nothing says trust like a little spyware, right? The first batch of messages loaded within an hour. I was sitting in my workshop behind the house, pretending to organize tools, when my phone buzzed. What I read made my coffee taste like ashes. Kara to Miles. He actually believed the Portland story. God, he's so clueless. Miles to Kara. Poor Brent. Still thinks he's married to an angel. Wait till he finds out his angel's been flying somewhere else. Kara to Miles. Don't feel bad for him. He's had this coming for years. Boring job, boring life, boring everything. At least after we clean out the accounts, I can finally live again. Miles to Kara. Speaking of accounts, did you get the credit line approved? Kara to Miles. Signed his name yesterday. $50,000 available by Friday. He'll never know until it's too late. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. Miles. I knew that name. Miles Denton, real estate consultant, drove a silver BMW, lived in one of those glass condos by the river. I'd met him at a few social events with Kara. Smooth talker, expensive suits, the kind of guy who called everyone buddy while looking over their shoulder for someone more important. The kind of guy my wife apparently preferred over her clueless husband. More messages kept loading, weeks of them, months, plans to drain our joint savings account, discussions about my emotional instability, a narrative they were crafting to explain why Kara needed to leave me, jokes about my job, my clothes, my truck, my everything. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how stupid they thought I was. Miles to Kara. Does he suspect anything? Kara to Miles. Brent, please, he can barely manage his own schedule. He has no idea what's happening right under his nose. Kara to Miles. Sometimes I think he's actually relieved when I'm gone. Less pressure to pretend we're happy. Miles to Kara. Well, soon you won't have to pretend anymore. Once we transfer the funds to the Cayman account, you can file for divorce and disappear. He'll be too broken to follow. I sat in my workshop until dark, reading every message, listening to every recorded call. They'd been planning this for 6 months. The unemployment story was a lie. She'd quit her job to spend more time with Miles. The business trips were romantic getaways. The new credit cards, the joint account withdrawals, even the story about her sister needing money, all lies. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They thought I was stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm just careful, methodical. And now I was motivated. By midnight, I had a plan. First stop, Millbrook Community Bank, 8:30 Monday morning. I walked in wearing my best shirt and tie, carrying a folder thick with printed emails and bank statements. Morning, Brent. Janet Morrison had been my loan officer for 10 years. She managed my mortgage, my truck payment, everything. What brings you in so early? Identity theft concerns, I said, settling into the chair across from her desk. I think someone's been forging my signature on credit applications. Her expression shifted to professional concern. That's serious. What makes you think so? I opened the folder and spread out the evidence. Credit applications I'd never seen, bearing signatures that looked like mine but weren't quite right. Bank transfers I'd never authorized. Janet's frown deepened as she examined each document. When did you first notice these discrepancies? This weekend. I was reviewing our accounts and found several irregularities. I pointed to a transfer authorization dated last Tuesday. This signature isn't mine. Look at the way the T is crossed in Brent. I never cross it that high. Janet pulled out a magnifying glass and compared the signature to my legitimate ones on file. You're right. This is definitely different. And you never authorized this $50,000 credit line? Never saw it before Saturday. I'm going to flag your accounts immediately, she said, fingers flying over her keyboard. Any idea who might have access to your personal information? I paused, letting reluctance show on my face. I hate to say this, but my wife has access to all our financial documents. She handles most of the paperwork at home. Janet's typing stopped. She'd known Kara for years, had processed the loan for Kara's car, had chatted with her at church functions. Brent, are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you who has access. I leaned forward. Janet, I need you to freeze everything, all accounts, all credit lines, everything with my name on it. I'll provide written authorization for any transactions going forward. That's going to freeze your wife out too. I understand. Janet studied my face for a long moment. Whatever she saw there convinced her. I'll need you to file a formal fraud report with the police. Already planning on it. By 10 a.m., every account was locked down, every credit card was frozen. The joint savings account, which contained exactly $47 after Kara's recent emergencies, was closed. I opened a new checking account in my name only and transferred my paycheck direct deposit. Next stop, Sean Murphy, my old high school buddy who'd become Millbrook's youngest detective sergeant. We met at Rosie's Diner on Main Street, away from the police station and prying ears. You look like hell, Sean said, sliding into the booth across from me. Feel worse. I ordered coffee and waited until the waitress left. I need advice. Off the record. Sean's expression grew cautious. What kind of advice? I told him everything. The fake business trips, the recorded conversations, the forged signatures, the planned financial devastation. Sean listened without interrupting, his cop face revealing nothing. You recorded her phone calls without consent, he said finally. I installed software on a phone registered to both of us, using our shared Apple ID account. That's technically legal in Maine, since you're married, but barely. He leaned back. Brent, this is messy as hell. You sure you want to go down this road? They were going to clean me out and disappear. I'm already down the road, Sean. I'm just trying to find the exit. Sean was quiet for a long time. What do you want from me? Nothing official, just if someone files a complaint about harassment or stalking in the next few weeks, maybe you could give me a heads up? I can't promise anything. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to remember we've been friends since we were 12. Sean nodded slowly. Be careful, Brent, and be smart. Don't do anything that'll put you in a cell next to the people you're trying to stop. After lunch, I drove to Big Jim's auto repair. Jim Kowalski had worked with me at the warehouse for 15 years before opening his own garage. He was 6'4", 260 pounds, and had hands like canned hams. He was also the most loyal friend I'd ever had. Brent! Jim emerged from under a Honda Civic, wiping grease on his coveralls. What brings you to my palace of mechanical miracles? I need a favor, Jim. A big one. I explained the situation. Jim's expression darkened as I talked, his jaw setting in a way that made him look dangerous. That little princess has been playing house with some rich boy while you're busting your ass at work? Jim's voice carried the edge of a man who'd grown up in Boston's toughest neighborhoods before moving to Maine. And they think you're too stupid to notice? That's about the size of it. What do you need? Backup. Nothing violent, nothing illegal, just moral support in case things get complicated. Jim grinned, and it wasn't a friendly expression. Brother, I've been waiting 20 years for you to ask me for help with something interesting. When do we start? The recording app had been busy while I made my rounds. New messages were waiting when I got home, and these were even better than the morning batch. Miles to Kara. How's the trip, beautiful? Kara to Miles. Perfect. He bought every word. I'm at the Riverside Motel now, room 237. How soon can you get here? Miles to Kara. On my way. Did you transfer the money from the joint account? Kara to Miles. This morning, $4,700. Not much, but it's a start. The big money comes Friday when the credit line activates. Kara to Miles. I almost feel bad. He looked so trusting this morning. Miles to Kara. Don't go soft on me now. You said yourself he's been holding you back for years. This is your chance at a real life. Kara to Miles. You're right. I just need to stay focused on the end game. Miles to Kara. 2 more days and we're free. Then we can start planning the Cayman trip. I screenshot everything and backed it up to 3 different cloud accounts. Then I opened a bottle of beer and sat on my back porch, looking out at the woods behind our house. Our house. My house now. Kara thought she was so clever, but she'd made a critical error. She'd underestimated me. In her mind, I was just boring old Brent, too dumb to notice his wife's affair, too weak to fight back, too broken to recover. She was about to learn how wrong she was. My phone buzzed with a call from Kara. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hey, honey, how's the retreat? Oh, you know how it is. Boredom by PowerPoint. Her voice sounded relaxed, content. We're just finishing up dinner. Probably going to be another late night. That's too bad. I was hoping we could talk tonight. About what? Nothing important. Just missed hearing your voice. There was a pause. That's sweet, Brent. I miss you too. More lies. According to the messages, she was planning to call Miles the moment we hung up to laugh about my pathetic neediness. Well, I should let you get back to your meeting, I said. I love you. Love you too. After she hung up, I sat in the growing darkness and smiled. Let her think she was winning. Let her and Miles celebrate their cleverness, their superior planning, their brilliant manipulation of stupid old Brent. Because tomorrow, the real game began. Tuesday morning brought rain and a text message that made my coffee taste even better. Kara to Tessa. Brent called last night sounding all lonely and pathetic. God, I can't wait to be done with this charade. Tessa Walsh, Kara's best friend since college, maid of honor at our wedding, frequent dinner guest at our house. According to the messages, she'd been helping coordinate the affair for months, providing alibis and advice. She was also, apparently, sleeping with Miles on the side. That detail was going to be useful. I drove to work early, arriving at the Millbrook distribution warehouse before the morning shift. The building was quiet except for the hum of refrigeration units and the distant sound of trucks on Route 2. I had 2 hours before my team arrived, 2 hours to make some calls and set the next phase in motion. First call, Kara's credit card companies. As her husband, I had legal authority to report suspected fraud on our joint accounts. It took 3 calls and 45 minutes of hold music, but by 8 a.m., every card in her name was frozen pending investigation. Second call, our cell phone provider. I upgraded our plan to include detailed call logs and GPS tracking for both phones, for security purposes, of course. Third call, a private investigator in Portland named Rick Santos. I'd found him online, read his reviews, checked his credentials. Former police detective, licensed, bonded, and available for immediate consultation. Mr. Alden, you mentioned adultery and financial fraud? That's right. I have evidence, but I need it documented professionally. Photographs, witness statements, the works. My rate is $200 a day plus expenses. How soon can you start? I can be in Millbrook this afternoon. By the time my warehouse crew arrived, I was back to being regular old Brent, discussing delivery schedules and inventory reports. But inside, I felt more alive than I had in months. For the first time in years, I had a purpose beyond just getting through another day. My phone buzzed with an audio message from Kara. The recording app had captured a phone call between her and Miles from an hour ago. The credit cards aren't working. Kara's voice sounded stressed. I tried to pay for breakfast, and they all got declined. Probably just a computer glitch, Miles replied. Try calling the company. I did. They said there's a fraud investigation. All my cards are frozen. What? How is that possible? I don't know, but this is bad, Miles. Really bad. What if Brent knows something? Calm down. There's no way he knows. He's probably just being paranoid about identity theft or something. You know how he is about security. Maybe. But what if... Kara, listen to me. We've come too far to panic now. The credit line activates tomorrow. We get the $50,000, transfer it offshore, and we're gone. One more day. You're right, I'm just being paranoid. Exactly. Now stop worrying and come back to bed. We've got the room until checkout. The call ended. I saved the audio file and forwarded it to Rick Santos with a text. This is what we're dealing with. The Riverside Motel, room 237. His response came back within minutes. On it. Lunch break gave me time to visit Millbrook's biggest gossip hub, the Depot Bar and Grill. The Depot sat in a converted train station on Main Street, all exposed brick and vintage railroad memorabilia. It served decent burgers and cold beer to a clientele of construction workers, mechanics, and warehouse guys like me. More importantly, it served as the unofficial information exchange for everyone in town. Brent! Charlie Voss waved me over to the bar. Charlie drove truck for the paper mill and knew everyone's business. Heard Kara's out of town on some fancy business trip. Corporate retreat in Portland, I said, ordering a Bud Light. She'll be back tomorrow. Must be nice, having a wife with a career like that. Marketing, right? Something like that. I kept my voice neutral, but Charlie caught the undertone. Everything okay at home? Why wouldn't it be? Charlie shrugged. No reason. Just asking. But I could see the wheels turning in his head. Charlie was a gossip, but he was also protective of people he liked. If he sensed trouble, he'd keep his ears open. I finished my beer and headed back to work, leaving just enough doubt in Charlie's mind to keep him curious. The afternoon dragged by slowly. Every hour brought new messages between Kara and Miles, each one more revealing than the last. They were planning to disappear to Grand Cayman with my money. They'd already researched apartments, flights, even fake identities. Miles had connections in the offshore banking world, clients who'd helped him set up shell companies and hidden accounts. But the most damaging messages were the personal ones. The cruel jokes about my appearance, my job, my truck. The detailed discussions of how to gaslight me into thinking I was losing my mind. The casual way they talked about destroying my life. Miles to Kara. Once we're gone, he'll probably have a breakdown, might even do something stupid. Kara to Miles. Good. Maybe then people will understand why I had to leave. Poor Kara, married to an unstable man who couldn't handle rejection. Miles to Kara. You're brilliant. By the time anyone figures out what really happened, we'll be sipping drinks on 7 Mile Beach. Kara to Miles. I almost hope he tries to follow us. It would be fun to watch him fail one more time. I read that exchange sitting in my truck in the warehouse parking lot, rain drumming on the roof. For a moment, pure rage washed over me, so intense that my hands shook. They weren't just stealing my money. They were planning to destroy my reputation, my sanity, my entire life. Then the rage crystallized into something colder and more useful. Determination. Rick Santos called at 5:30. I've got what you need, he said. Photos, video, audio recordings from outside their room. Your wife and Mr. Denton have been very busy today. How busy? Let's just say they're not discussing business mergers. I'll have a full report tomorrow, but the evidence is rock solid. Adultery, conspiracy to commit fraud, the works. What's next? That depends on what you want. Divorce court, criminal charges, public humiliation. I thought about that for a moment. All of the above. I like your style, Mr. Alden. I'll have everything ready by tomorrow evening. I drove home through the rain, past the Riverside Motel where my wife was spending our anniversary money on her boyfriend, past the bank where I'd locked down our accounts, past the depot where rumors were probably already starting to spread. Home felt different now, emptier but also cleaner somehow, like a house where lies used to live but didn't anymore. I made dinner for one and ate it at the kitchen table, reading more intercepted messages. Kara was getting nervous about the credit card situation. Miles was reassuring her, but I could sense doubt creeping into his confidence. They were starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, boring old Brent wasn't as stupid as they'd thought. Tomorrow was Wednesday, the day their credit line was supposed to activate, the day they planned to steal $50,000 and disappear. It was also the day I planned to end their little game permanently. I opened another beer and started making a list. By the time I went to bed, I had 17 items written down, each one a step in what I was starting to think of as Operation Tripwire. Because that's what this was, really. They thought they were walking toward freedom, but they were actually walking toward a trap. Every step they took, every lie they told, every cruel message they sent, was just pulling the wire tighter. Tomorrow, the wire would snap. And they would fall. Wednesday morning arrived gray and cold, with the kind of October wind that strips leaves from trees and sends them skittering down empty streets. I woke up at 5 a.m., made coffee, and checked the overnight messages. Kara to Miles. I'm scared, Miles. What if he knows? Miles to Kara. He doesn't know. Trust me, if Brent suspected anything, he'd confront you directly. He's not smart enough for subtlety. Kara to Miles. Then why are all my cards frozen? Miles to Kara. Identity theft happens all the time. It's probably just coincidence. Kara to Miles. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Miles to Kara. Look, the credit line activates at 9 a.m. We transfer the money immediately, then drive to Boston and catch the 6 p.m. flight to Miami. By tomorrow night, we're in Grand Cayman, and this is all behind us. Kara to Miles. What about Brent? Miles to Kara. What about him? By the time he figures out what happened, we'll be gone. He can cry to the police all he wants, but international banking laws will protect us. Kara to Miles. You're right. I'm just nervous. Miles to Kara. Everything's going to be perfect. Trust me. Trust. That was rich, coming from a man who was sleeping with both my wife and her best friend. I screenshot the messages and forwarded them to Rick Santos, then got dressed for what I hoped would be the most satisfying day of my life. First stop, Millbrook Community Bank, 8:45 a.m. "Morning, Janet," I said, approaching her desk with a folder of documents. "I need to discuss that credit line we talked about yesterday." "The fraudulent one?" "I've been reviewing the paperwork." She looked troubled. "Brent, I have to ask, are you absolutely certain your wife wasn't involved in this?" "I'm certain she was involved. The question is whether she's a victim or a perpetrator." Janet's expression grew more serious. "What do you mean?" I opened the folder and spread out printed copies of the text messages, the call transcripts, everything. Janet's eyes widened as she read. "My God, Brent, she's been planning this for months. The credit line activates at 9 a.m. They're planning to transfer the money immediately and flee the country." "Not anymore, they're not." Janet's fingers flew over her keyboard. "I'm canceling the credit line right now. Fraud prevention." "Can you do that?" "I can and I am. This is clearly criminal conspiracy." She picked up her phone. "I'm also calling the police. This goes way beyond identity theft." "Wait." I put my hand over the phone. "Give me until this afternoon. I want to catch them in the act." Janet studied my face. "Brent, what are you planning?" "Nothing illegal, nothing violent. I just want them to understand exactly how badly they've miscalculated." She hesitated, then nodded. "You have until 3 p.m. After that, I'm filing a formal complaint. That's all I need." Next stop. Rick Santos was waiting in the parking lot of the Riverside Motel, sitting in a nondescript sedan with tinted windows. "They're still in the room," he said, handing me a thick manila envelope. "Photos, audio recordings, video surveillance, the works. Your wife and Mr. Denton have been very careless about operational security." I opened the envelope and flipped through the contents. The photos were explicit and damning. The audio recordings were worse. Not just the adultery, but detailed discussions of their financial crimes, their plans to flee the country, their cruel jokes about my stupidity. "This is enough to destroy them both," I said. "Criminally and civilly, yes. What's your next move?" "Public confrontation. I want witnesses." Rick raised an eyebrow. "That's risky. Emotions run high. People do stupid things." "I'm not going to do anything stupid, but they are." "What do you need from me?" "Documentation. I want everything they say and do recorded. Multiple angles, professional quality. That'll cost extra. I don't care what it costs." Rick nodded. "When and where?" "The Depot Bar, noon. Wednesday lunch crowd will be packed. I'll be there." I spent the morning at work, going through the motions of managing inventory and scheduling deliveries, while my phone buzzed with increasingly frantic messages between Kara and Miles. Kara to Miles. "The credit line was denied. They said there's a fraud investigation." Miles to Kara. "What? That's impossible." Kara to Miles. "I'm looking at the email right now. Application canceled due to suspected fraudulent activity." Miles to Kara. "This is bad, Kara, really bad." Kara to Miles. "You think Brent knows?" Miles to Kara. "I don't know how he could, but maybe we should postpone the trip." Kara to Miles. "No, I can't go back to that house, that life, that marriage. I won't." Miles to Kara. "Then we need another plan." Kara to Miles. "What about your emergency fund?" Miles to Kara. "That's only 20,000. It's not enough to disappear." Kara to Miles. "It's enough to get us to Grand Cayman. We can figure out the rest from there." Miles to Kara. "I don't know." Kara to Miles. "Miles, listen to me. I'm done with this marriage. I'm done with this town. I'm done with being boring Brent's boring wife. With or without you, I'm leaving today." Miles to Kara. Okay, you're right. We'll use my money, but we have to be smart about this." Kara to Miles. "Meet me at the depot for lunch. We'll discuss the details, then go to your bank. Miles to Kara. The depot? That's Brent's crowd. Kara to Miles. Exactly. He'll never expect us to meet there. It's the perfect cover. Perfect cover. Right. I called Rick Santos. Change of plans. They're coming to us. Even better. I'll set up surveillance in the restaurant. At 11:30, I drove to the depot and took a seat at the bar where I could see the entire restaurant. Charlie Voss was already there, along with most of the usual lunch crowd. Construction workers, mechanics, warehouse supervisors, truck drivers. My people. Big Jim arrived at 11:45, still wearing his work coveralls. You look nervous, he said, settling onto the stool next to mine. Not nervous. Excited. What's the plan? Just follow my lead. And whatever happens, don't throw any punches unless they throw first. Jim grinned. Aw, come on. Not even a little one? Not even a little one? At exactly 12:05, Kara walked through the front door. She looked beautiful, as always. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect outfit. She looked like success, like money, like everything a man could want. She also looked like a liar and a thief. Miles followed her in, scanning the room nervously. He spotted me at the bar and froze. For a second, I thought he might bolt. But Kara grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a corner booth. Showtime, I murmured to Jim. I waited until they'd ordered drinks, then stood up and walked over to their table. The restaurant was crowded and noisy, but conversations began to quiet as people noticed the drama unfolding. Well, well, I said, loud enough for half the room to hear, if it isn't my loving wife and her business associate. Kara's face went white. Miles started to stand, but I put my hand on his shoulder and pushed him back down. Brent, Kara said, her voice shaking. What are you doing here? Having lunch in my favorite restaurant. The question is, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Portland. The retreat ended early. I was just what? Discussing real estate with Miles here? I pulled out my phone and opened the audio app. Because I've got some fascinating recordings of your business discussions. I hit play. Kara's voice filled the air. God, he's so clueless. Boring job, boring life, boring everything. Then Miles. Poor Brent. Still thinks he's married to an angel. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Every eye in the place was on our table. Turn it off, Kara whispered. Why? I thought you'd want everyone to hear about your brilliant business plan. I hit play again. Miles's voice. Once we clean out the accounts, you can file for divorce and disappear. Kara's voice. He'll be too broke and broken to follow. Stop it! Kara lunged for my phone, but I pulled it away. Oh, there's more. I played another clip. Kara's voice. I almost hope he tries to follow us. It would be fun to watch him fail one more time. The silence in the restaurant was deafening. I could see shock, disgust, and anger on the faces around us. These were working people, honest people. They understood betrayal when they heard it. You bastard, Miles said, finally finding his voice. You recorded us illegally. Actually, no. Maine is a one-party consent state for married couples. Perfectly legal. I smiled at him. But thanks for confirming those were your voices. Miles stood up, his face red with anger. You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, guess what, Brent? We don't need your money anymore. I've got plenty of my own. Had, I corrected. Past tense. What? You had plenty of money before your real estate license got suspended this morning. The color drained from Miles's face. That's impossible. Fraud investigation. Seems someone provided the state licensing board with evidence that you've been forging client signatures and embezzling escrow funds. I shrugged. Probably just a coincidence. You snake. Now. Language. We're in mixed company. I looked around the restaurant. Speaking of which, I should probably mention that Miles here has been sleeping with both my wife and her best friend Tessa. sometimes on the same day. Kara gasped. That's not true. I played another audio clip. Miles's voice. Tessa's getting suspicious about us. Maybe we should cool it until after we're in the Caymans. Kara's voice. You're still sleeping with her? Miles's voice. It's just physical. You're the one I love. You lying piece of shit. Kara turned on Miles with fury I'd never seen before. You told me you broke it off with her. Kara, calm down. Calm down, calm down. She grabbed her water glass and threw it in his face. You've been playing both of us. The restaurant erupted. People were laughing, pointing, pulling out phones to record the drama. Miles was dripping wet and furious. Kara was screaming accusations. And I was standing there, calm and collected, watching my carefully planned revenge unfold exactly as I'd hoped. Well, I said to the room in general, I guess that business retreat didn't go as planned. Charlie Voss started laughing. Then Big Jim joined in. Within seconds, the entire restaurant was laughing at the spectacle of my cheating wife and her cheating boyfriend turning on each other. This isn't over, Miles snarled, pointing at me. Oh, but it is, I replied. Your business is ruined, your reputation is destroyed, and your girlfriend just found out you're a cheating liar. I'd say it's very much over. Miles stormed out, leaving Kara sitting alone in the booth, mascara running down her face. Brent, she said quietly, we need to talk. No, we don't. We need to get divorced. Your things will be on the front lawn when you get home. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, Kara. You did it to yourself. I walked back to the bar, leaving her sitting there in the wreckage of her lies. The restaurant slowly returned to normal, but I could feel the eyes on me, the whispered conversations, the grudging respect. Big Jim clapped me on the back. That was beautiful, brother. Absolutely beautiful. Charlie Voss bought me a beer. Always knew there was more to you than met the eye, Brent. I sat at the bar for another hour, accepting congratulations and enjoying the best meal I'd had in months. Outside, I could see Rick Santos packing up his surveillance equipment. The whole thing had been recorded from multiple angles. By the time I left the depot, the story was already spreading through town. By evening, everyone in Millbrook would know what Kara and Miles had tried to do, and how spectacularly they'd failed. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The real revenge was just beginning. Thursday morning brought the kind of crisp October sunshine that makes Maine beautiful, and a phone call that made my day perfect. Mr. Alden? This is Detective Morrison with the State Police Financial Crimes Unit. We'd like to discuss the evidence you provided regarding fraudulent banking activities. Of course, Detective. When would be convenient? This afternoon, if possible. We're also interested in speaking with your wife and Mr. Denton. I'm afraid they're not available. Oh? Where are they? I looked out my kitchen window at the pile of garbage bags on my front lawn. Kara's clothes, makeup, jewelry, everything she'd left behind in our house. I believe they're staying at the Riverside Motel, room 237. Thank you. We'll be in touch. After hanging up, I made coffee and checked the overnight messages. The recording app was still active on Kara's phone, and the results were fascinating. Kara to Tessa. Everything's ruined. Brent knows everything. Tessa to Kara. How is that possible? You said he was clueless. Kara to Tessa. He recorded our phone calls, played them in front of half the town. Tessa to Kara. Oh my God, what about Miles? Kara to Tessa. Miles is a lying bastard who's been sleeping with both of us. Did you know about that? Tessa to Kara. We need to talk. Kara to Tessa. No, we don't. I'm done with all of you. This whole town, this whole life. I'm leaving today. Tessa to Kara. Where will you go? Kara to Tessa. I don't know. Somewhere Brent can't find me. Kara to Tessa. I can't believe this happened. Yesterday I had a plan, a future, everything figured out. Tessa to Kara. Maybe you can work things out with Brent. Kara to Tessa. Are you insane? After what he did to me yesterday? I'll never forgive him for humiliating me like that. Humiliating her. That was rich. She'd been planning to steal $50,000 and disappear, but I was the villain for exposing her. The morning news brought more good developments. Miles's real estate firm had issued a statement suspending him pending investigation. 2 of his former clients had already filed complaints about missing escrow funds. His BMW had been repossessed during the night. Apparently, he'd been 3 months behind on payments. The golden boy was falling hard. I drove to work early, arriving at the warehouse before my crew. The building was quiet except for the distant rumble of trucks on Route 2. I had an hour before the morning shift, an hour to make some final arrangements. First call, my divorce attorney, recommended by Rick Santos. Mr. Alden, I've reviewed the evidence you provided. This is one of the most clear-cut adultery cases I've ever seen. How long will the divorce take? With evidence this strong? 6 months, maybe less. She won't fight it. She can't afford to. What about property division? Maine is an equitable distribution state, but adultery and attempted fraud will weigh heavily in your favor. You'll keep the house, the retirement accounts, everything. She'll be lucky to get her car. Good. There is one complication. If she flees the state, it could delay proceedings. I don't think that'll be a problem. Second call. The Millbrook Gazette, our local weekly newspaper. This is Brent Alden. I'd like to place a legal notice in next week's edition. What kind of notice? Divorce proceedings. Public notification that Kara Alden has abandoned the marital residence and that all debts incurred in her name after October 15th will not be honored by the household. That's unusual. But legal? Yes, it's legal. We can run it in next week's edition. Perfect. By the time my warehouse crew arrived, I was back to being regular old Brent, discussing delivery schedules and inventory reports. But word of yesterday's confrontation had spread, and I could see the new respect in their eyes. Heard you gave your wife and her boyfriend quite a show yesterday, said Tommy Rodriguez, one of my forklift operators. Just cleared up some misunderstandings. Well, for what it's worth, we all thought she was too good for you anyway. Turns out we had it backwards. At lunch, I drove to the depot. The place was packed, and conversation stopped when I walked in. But instead of awkward silence, I heard applause. Actual applause. There he is, Charlie Voss called out. The man who proved that nice guys don't always finish last. I took my usual seat at the bar, and people kept buying me drinks, slapping my back, telling me stories about their own cheating spouses and how they wished they'd handled it as well as I had. You're a local hero, the bartender said. Haven't seen the town this excited since the high school won state. I just stood up for myself. That's exactly what makes you a hero. Around 2 p.m., my phone buzzed with a call from Detective Morrison. Mr. Alden, we've arrested Mr. Denton on charges of fraud and embezzlement. Your wife is cooperating with our investigation. Cooperating how? She's provided evidence that Mr. Denton was the mastermind behind the financial crimes. According to her statement, she was an unwilling victim of his manipulation. I almost laughed. Even now, even caught red-handed, Kara was trying to play the victim card. Detective, I assume you've heard the audio recordings where she discusses cleaning out my accounts. We have. Her attorney is claiming she was coerced. By a man she was voluntarily having an affair with? It's a weak defense, but they're going to try it. The good news is, we have enough evidence to prosecute both of them. The bad news is, she might get a plea deal if she testifies against Denton. As long as she's held accountable, I don't care how it happens. After work, I drove home to find 2 police cars in my driveway. Detective Morrison was waiting on my front porch with a search warrant. Just a formality, he explained. We need to collect any evidence related to the fraud case. Of course, everything's in my home office. I led him inside and provided copies of all the recordings, messages, financial documents, everything. The detective seemed impressed by my organization. You've done excellent work documenting this case. Ever consider a career in law enforcement? I like my current job, but thanks. After the police left, I sat on my back porch with a beer, looking out at the woods behind my house. The October air was crisp and clean, full of the promise of winter. For the first time in months, I felt truly peaceful. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. This is Kara. I'm using a friend's phone. We need to talk. Me. No, we don't. Unknown. Brent, please. I know you're angry, but we can work this out. Me. There's nothing to work out. You made your choice. Unknown. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But people can change. Me. You're right, I changed. I stopped being the kind of man who tolerates being lied to and stolen from. Unknown. What do you want from me? An apology? I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry for everything. Me. I don't want anything from you, Kara. I want you to stay away from me, stay away from my house, and stay away from my life. Unknown. You can't just throw away 15 years of marriage. Me. I didn't throw it away. You did. When you decided to sleep with Miles, when you decided to steal my money, when you decided I was too stupid to notice. Unknown. I never said you were stupid. I screenshot one of her messages to Miles and sent it to her. He's had this coming for years. Boring job, boring life, boring everything. The phone was quiet for a long time. Then, unknown. I was angry when I wrote that. I didn't mean it. Me. Yes, you did, and that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to my money or my house or my life. Unknown. Where am I supposed to go? I don't have anywhere else. Me. That's not my problem anymore. Unknown. Brent, please, I'm begging you. Me. You should have thought of that before you decided to destroy our marriage. I blocked the number and finished my beer in peace. Later that evening, Big Jim stopped by with a six-pack and a grin. Heard Miles got arrested today. So I'm told. Also heard your wife's trying to pin everything on him. Sounds about right. Jim opened 2 beers and handed me one. You know what the best part of all this is? What's that? You didn't have to become a bad guy to beat the bad guys. You just had to stop being a victim. We sat on the porch until dark, talking about work, the weather, anything except my imploding marriage. It was exactly what I needed. Normal conversation with a good friend, no drama, no complications. After Jim left, I went inside and started planning tomorrow's activities. There were still loose ends to tie up, final moves to make. Kara and Miles thought their story was over, but they were wrong. The climax was still coming. Friday morning arrived with frost on the windows and a phone call that changed everything. Mr. Alden, this is Sarah Chen from Channel 8 News. We'd like to interview you about the fraud case involving your wife and Miles Denton. I'm not interested in publicity. This story is going to run with or without your participation. Wouldn't you prefer to tell your side? I thought about that. What kind of story are you planning? Local woman and her boyfriend attempt to defraud husband, get caught by his clever investigation. It's a David and Goliath story, Mr. Alden. People love seeing the underdog win. When would you want to do this? This afternoon, if possible. We're planning to air it on tonight's 6 o'clock news. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and thinking. A news story would make everything public beyond just Millbrook. It would follow Kara and Miles wherever they went, whatever they tried to do next. Their names would be forever linked to fraud and adultery. It was perfect. I called Rick Santos. How would you like to be on television? Depends. Am I the hero or the villain? Definitely the hero. Local PI helps honest husband catch cheating wife and her criminal boyfriend. I like it. Good for business. At work, the news had already spread. My entire crew knew about the TV interview and they were excited. You're going to be famous, said Tommy Rodriguez. famous for being smarter than everyone thought. I was always this smart. People just didn't notice. Well, they're noticing now. The morning brought a steady stream of phone calls, reporters from Portland and Bangor wanting interviews, a producer from a true crime podcast, even a literary agent who thought my story would make a good book. But the most interesting call came from Detective Morrison. "Mr. Alden, I wanted to give you an update. Mr. Denton has agreed to plead guilty to fraud charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 5 years, eligible for parole in 3. What about Kara? That's more complicated. Her attorney is still claiming she was manipulated, but the evidence is overwhelming. We're offering her a deal. 2 years suspended sentence, 5 years probation, full restitution to you." Restitution? She doesn't have any money. She'll have to get a job. Pay you back over time. I'd rather see her in prison. I understand your feelings, but this deal ensures you get your money back and she faces consequences. Sometimes justice is about practical outcomes, not emotional satisfaction. I thought about that. What happens if she violates probation? Automatic prison sentence. No parole, no appeals. Then I'll take the deal. The afternoon TV interview went better than expected. The reporter, Sarah Chen, was professional and sympathetic. She'd done her homework, understood the story, asked the right questions. "How did you know to start recording your wife's phone calls?" "Instinct. After 15 years of marriage, you know when something's wrong. The business trip story didn't add up." What was the hardest part of this experience? Learning that the person I trusted most in the world had been lying to me for months. Not just about the affair, but about everything. Her job, her feelings, her plans for our future. "How do you feel about your wife now?" "I don't feel anything about her. She's a stranger who used to live in my house." "What's next for you?" "Moving forward, building a new life, being more careful about who I trust." The interview aired at 6 p.m. I watched it at the depot with half the town, surrounded by friends and neighbors who cheered every time I appeared on screen. "Look at that," Charlie Voss said. "Our boy Brent, television star." 15 minutes of fame, I replied. "Maybe, but you earned every second of it." After the news ended, my phone started buzzing with calls and texts. Friends from high school I hadn't heard from in years, co-workers from previous jobs, even my ex-girlfriend from college, now married and living in California. But the most satisfying call came from my brother Dave in Seattle. "Holy shit, Brent, I just saw you on the news." "It made it all the way to Seattle?" "It's on YouTube. Already has 50,000 views." Dave was laughing. "I always knew Kara was trouble, but this is incredible. You played her like a violin." "I just documented what she was already doing." "No, you did more than that. You outsmarted people who thought they were smarter than you. That takes skill." Saturday morning brought the weekend edition of the Portland Press-Herald, with my story on the front page of the Metro section. The headline read, "Warehouse Supervisor Outsmarts Wife's Fraud Scheme." The article was fair and accurate, portraying me as a regular guy who'd used intelligence and patience to catch criminals. It mentioned Miles's arrest, Kara's cooperation with prosecutors, and the sophisticated nature of their planned theft. But the best part was the final paragraph. "Mr. Alden says he has no plans to reconcile with his wife and is looking forward to starting fresh. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is learning who people really are," he said. I was reading the article for the 3rd time when my doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see a woman I didn't recognize standing on my front porch. I opened the door cautiously. "Can I help you?" "Mr. Alden, I'm Jennifer Walsh, Tessa's sister. I wanted to apologize for my sister's role in what happened to you." Jennifer looked like an older, more serious version of Tessa. She was well-dressed, professional, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. "That's not necessary," I said. "Yes, it is. Tessa told me everything. How she helped coordinate the affair, provided alibis, even let them use her apartment." Jennifer's voice was tight with anger. I'm ashamed to be related to her. Where is Tessa now? Hiding at our mother's house in Bangor. She's terrified that you're going to sue her. I'm not going to sue her. She's not worth the effort. Thank you. That's more generous than she deserves. Jennifer left, and I went back to my coffee and newspaper. But her visit had reminded me of something important. There were still people in this mess who hadn't faced consequences. Tessa Walsh had been instrumental in the conspiracy. She'd provided cover stories, helped coordinate meetings, even slept with Miles to keep him happy and compliant. She was as guilty as anyone. Maybe it was time to fix that oversight. I called Rick Santos. I need you to investigate someone. Who? Tessa Walsh. I want to know everything about her finances, her job, her personal life, everything. What are you looking for? Leverage. She helped destroy my marriage. I want to return the favor. I'll get started Monday. Sunday was quiet. I slept late, read the newspaper, watched football on TV. Normal activities for a normal weekend, except everything felt different now. Cleaner, like I'd been carrying a heavy weight for months and had finally put it down. My phone rang around dinner time. The caller ID showed Kara's number, her real number, not the borrowed phone from Thursday. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. What do you want, Kara? I saw the news story. Her voice sounded small, defeated. How could you do that to me? Do what? Tell the truth? You made me look like a criminal. You are a criminal. You forged my signature, stole my money, and planned to disappear to Grand Cayman. That was Miles's idea. No, Kara. I heard the recordings. It was your idea, too. You were an enthusiastic participant. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I never meant for it to go this far. What did you mean for it to go? I was unhappy, Brent. Unhappy with our marriage, our life, everything. Miles made me feel alive again. So you decided to steal from me. I thought you'd be better off without me. You're probably right, but that wasn't your decision to make. What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices, just like everyone else. The prosecutor says I might avoid prison if I cooperate. Good for you. Brent, I know you hate me now, but I don't hate you, Kara. Hate requires caring, and I don't care about you anymore. You're just someone who used to live in my house. That's worse than hate. Yes, it is. I hung up and turned off the phone. Outside, October darkness was falling early, but inside my house, everything felt bright and clean and new. Tomorrow was Monday. A new week, a new beginning. For the first time in months, I was looking forward to what came next. But first, there was one more loose end to tie up. Tessa Walsh was about to learn that actions have consequences and some debts take a long time to collect. The game wasn't over yet. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my favorite booth at the depot when Rick Santos slid a manila envelope across the table. Tessa Walsh, he said. Everything you wanted to know and several things you probably didn't. I opened the envelope and scanned the contents. Bank records, employment history, phone logs, social media activity. Rick had been thorough. She's been stealing from her employer, I said, reading the financial analysis. Embezzling from the nonprofit where she works. Small amounts over several years, but it adds up to about $30,000. How did you find this? She's been sloppy. Using company credit cards for personal expenses, falsifying donation records, the usual nonprofit fraud. Her boss just hasn't noticed yet. But you could help him notice. Hypothetically, yes. An anonymous tip to the right person, backed by solid evidence. I studied the documents. Tessa Walsh, who'd helped destroy my marriage, was a thief herself. The irony was perfect. Send the tip, I said. Consider it done. Rick left, and I finished my lunch alone, thinking about justice and revenge and the difference between them. Kara was facing criminal charges and would spend years paying me back. Miles was in prison and would emerge with a criminal record that would follow him forever. And now Tessa would face her own reckoning. But the best revenge wasn't what happened to them. It was what happened to me. I'd discovered I was stronger than I'd thought, smarter than anyone had given me credit for, capable of fighting back when cornered and winning when everyone expected me to lose. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. I kept the house, the retirement accounts, everything. Kara got her car and a payment plan that would keep her working for the next decade. She moved to Portland, got a job waiting tables, and disappeared from my life as completely as if she'd never existed. Miles served 3 years and moved to Florida, where he worked construction and kept a low profile. Tessa was fired from her nonprofit job and faced her own fraud charges. I stayed in Millbrook, kept my job at the warehouse, and slowly built a new life. I dated occasionally, traveled more, spent time with friends who'd proven their loyalty during the crisis. People still recognized me sometimes, the warehouse supervisor who'd outsmarted his cheating wife and her criminal boyfriend. But the fame faded, and I was content to be just Brent Alden again, a regular guy who'd learned to stand up for himself. 6 months after the divorce, I was cleaning out the garage when I found a box of old photos, pictures of Kara and me from happier times, our wedding, vacations, holidays with family. I looked through them once, remembering the man I'd been then, trusting, naive, willing to believe the best about everyone. That man was gone, replaced by someone harder but wiser. Someone who understood that love without respect is worthless, that trust must be earned, and that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who don't value you. I threw the photos in the trash and went back to organizing my tools. There was work to do, a life to build, a future to create, and for the first time in years, that future belonged entirely to me. The tripwire had been set and sprung. The trap had closed, and I was the only one left standing. That evening, I sat on my back porch with a beer, watching the sun set through the trees. My phone buzzed with a text from Big Jim about weekend plans. Charlie Voss called to discuss the upcoming fishing season. Normal conversations with loyal friends, no drama, no complications. This was what peace felt like. This was what winning looked like. Not the dramatic confrontation at the depot, not the news interviews or newspaper articles, not even seeing my enemies face justice. It was sitting alone on my own porch, in my own house, living my own life, free from the lies and manipulations of people who'd never deserved my trust in the first place. I'd learned something important during those dark months. You can't control what other people do to you, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to fight back. You can let betrayal destroy you, or you can let it teach you. I'd chosen to fight. I'd chosen to learn, and I'd won more than just money or property or revenge. I'd won myself back. The stars came out one by one as darkness fell over Millbrook. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistle echoed across the valley, carrying freight and passengers to destinations unknown. But I was exactly where I belonged, exactly where I wanted to be. Home.